My country is full of holes, and so is my body. Mines and mass graves, torture and exile, disappearances, massacres, rapes. My body is a site of multiple digs. The city I live in is built on holes. My forefathers were miners, European migrants who journeyed to the colony to mine the soil. We brought the disease with us, smuggled on ships, sluiced in blood across the decks. The colony becomes a dumping ground for Western waste and detritus, the sick, the poor, the criminal. The trees cough and dust scatters. Blood seeps up and drowns a valley. In death, my forefathers share the earth with the black miners who came after. Tunnels are drilled and dug out, mine shafts, pit latrines, sinkholes that disappear people. Men are dropped into darkness. The blasts echo. Dust rises, infects the air. Silica dust can never be removed. Always it remains. A film, a scrim, coating everything, embedded in the system. The music of wind instrument. History is never erased, only hidden, dusted into corners, swept under the carpet. My people, mine. Today, 500,000 gold miners in South Africa, Mozambique, Swaziland, Lesotho, Botswana, and Malawi are dying of silicosis and tuberculosis. We make our lives by the deaths of others. What do I do with that knowledge? Where in my body do I store it? Where does my story begin? Is it in the birth canal? Or is it at the bottom of a mine shaft? Is it with the holes in my body? There are so many, those that I'm born with and those that come after. The body recalls, harbors ruins, sorrows, keeps what the mind can't contain. My body is a gravesite. Their lungs are black as their coal-stained faces. The air is stained with their voices. Their voices rise in parabasis. Frantz Fanon describes colonialism as suffocation, a system that sucks oxygen, makes breathing impossible. A student enters carrying a placard that reads, "I can't breathe." The police used tear gas to quell the recent student uprisings in South Africa. It is late afternoon and the light is tinged yellow, the bruise of darkness looming. In the air, a smell of smoke, tear gas. The protesters start to disperse, break into small groups, walking like people under hypnosis. I try to leave too, to go home, but the scene keeps replaying. That night I can't stop replaying the images. My eyes are streaming, but I'm not sure if it's the tear gas, or if I'm crying, or what the difference is. The irony of a weapon that provokes the same reaction as sorrow and mourning. It is said tears are a sign of powerlessness, a woman's weapon. When I cry too much, I stop being able to breathe. My throat collapses from the salt. But no one weeps for the Algerian children asphyxiated by French colonists. Few today seem to remember that the beginning of the Nazi gas chambers was the French colonial project in Algeria. The image stays with me. The image stays with me. A handful of bones, black as soot, that lie amidst the rubble of a city. In Johannesburg today, the mine dumps stretch across the horizon. The air transforms from a condition for life to a threat to life, becoming a technology of what Achille Mbembe terms necropolitics. Here we find a fractured and mutated form of life, characterized by a dizzying proliferation of ways to die. Accidental death, ceremonial death, unmotivated death, death by murder, death by assassination, death by starvation, death by disease, death by simply breathing. How do you breathe correctly? And how often should you take a deep breath? And what if the air that surrounds you is polluted, poisoned by history, by hate and violence? What if breathing makes you dizzy? What if it makes you sick? My sickness first manifests as a series of seemingly unrelated symptoms: weight loss, fever, diarrhea, a sense that something is eating me from the inside, drilling down, opening new holes in my body. extracting my life force. My body is eating my body. I submit myself for testing, but no one can explain my symptoms. My body has become a crime scene. Men in white pick around it. It takes 8 years before my disease is finally diagnosed. By that time, I'm almost dead. Immediately, I feel guilty. I brought the disease on myself. Always that culpability. In our health-obsessed society, to be sick is to be guilty, says Susan Sontag in her book, Illness as Metaphor. One's mind betrays one's body. Maybe my sickness is a punishment, a form of retribution, payback for the violent crimes I've inherited. Maybe it's just a symptom, part of my desire to create difference, to place distance between me and the world I was born in. Living in this country is a death rattle, a blow detonating the tongue, the teeth, the bone. Living in this country is an infection, an accumulation of bacteria in a cavity, in a body, at the bottom of a mineshaft. After I'm diagnosed, the doctor asks me, "Does your job take you to the township?" At first, I don't understand his question. Then I get it. He thinks I'm too white to have TB. My whiteness secures my treatment, my private isolation ward, my loneliness. The walls are white as to be expected. The doctors are all white. I'm safely wrapped in a sheet of white fragility, held up by a network of white cartridge. Whiteness is equal wellness, the premise of blankness, the presumed universal. I'm isolated in a private room because I'm contagious. The world is most commonly associated with the spread of diseases, with poison, corruption, harmful practices and ideas. Something spread by intimacy, or even just proximity. Racism needs a fiction that there are pure bodies, pure cultures, pure blood. I don't understand. What am I dressing for if I can go nowhere and no one is permitted to visit me? The chair is 1/2 meter from the bed. The room is tiny. My sheets are changed every few days. The process is mechanical, stripped and bundled. I smell myself leave in the nurse's arms. I imagine my tangled limbs, damp, fetid, rolling around in an industrial washer, intermingling with the stains of others. I think of the woman who pissed every night in her bed when I was first admitted to the hospital. She refused to use the bedpan provided and insisted on being carried to the toilet. When no one complied, she lay sodden in her own urine. In hospital, bodily fluids are the only form of resistance left. I'm no different. The word the medical establishment uses is isolation, but really it's closer to incarceration. I'm forbidden from exiting and seeing people freely. I'd speak out if I wasn't afraid of inhaling history, My breath is dangerous. The lives of others depend on my distance. A tiny screen frames everything. I want to say, I love you, but the phone has buried my mouth. I'm surrounded by strangers and strangeness, half faces without mouths, only eyes, without being able to see anyone. Tremors, palpitation. With the outbreak of drug-resistant tuberculosis, some hospitals in South Africa have come to resemble prisons. During my hospital stay, 49 highly infectious tuberculosis patients break out of a high-security hospital isolation unit to spend Christmas with their families. I find myself in sudden solidarity, the gaps between secretly words, backing the escaped men. From a tiny isolation ward in the hospital, I cheer them on. The police have launched a manhunt. The patients have become criminal, made villainous by illness. And I think how similar the words of health officials are to those used by politicians. The war on diseases is launched by the medical establishment. For the health system to get along with illness, patients must be considered outlaws, reads a statement from the Socialist Patient Collective. Today, the clinical term is tuberculosis, but I prefer the old name, consumption. Can my sickness be an opposition to capitalist consumerism? I'm on shaky ground. There's a danger of romanticizing illness, the disease and the diseased, the sick and the dying, romanticizing pain and poverty. My friend, poet and activist Sandile Dekani died of TB 2 years ago. For years he fought the apartheid system with his fiery poetry. His metaphoric cries blew holes in the apartheid system.
My country's for peace.
But he couldn't fight the holes that tuberculosis ate in his body.
Reptiles caressing its surface
his body,
with elegant motions,
its history,
in their pride.
And my body.
My country's for joy,
are entangled.
So talk these mountains with
shared history of colonial and apartheid atrocity. What depth do I owe?
My country's for health and wealth. See the blue of the sea.
If we were to trace the shared history of our bodily connections, our holes inside and out,
voice of a miner's praise.
Where would we arrive?
My country is for unity. See the millions. Feel their passion. Their hands are joined together. Look, there is hope in their eyes. And we shall celebrate and celebrate.
I go looking for answers in the archives, but all I find is myself. There are hundreds of me, men and women, officials, doctors, nurses, mine owners in letters and minuted meetings. All that remains of the workers is not their voices, but medical data, X-rays and tissue samples, whole lives reduced to parts of a body that lie amidst the rubble of a city. What is buried is still alive with meaning, but I can't tell the mine worker's story without adding to the exploitation, the wounding. My hands are sweating and my fingerprints stain the X-rays. I pick my way through an archive of dust-damaged silica sacks, hallways of silence. A forest of bronchial branches opens before me. As I move deeper, blood vessels explode into a million blooming flowers. Then I hear it. The sound of breathing. At first, I think it's one set of lungs. Somebody with me here in the archive? But then I realize I'm hearing thousands of lungs. The lungs of mine workers. All of them breathing in unison. I'm alone in the archive. I hold my breath until I can't anymore. My lungs collapse into dust in the dream. My mouth fills with dirt. Something is stuck in my throat. I cough and I cough, but I can't loose it. My body contains ruins, the remnants of lives. How do you grieve deaths you're responsible for? It feels too difficult to talk about these things, about race and sickness and death and dying. I can only talk in stutters and stumbles, in the gaps between words. Catherine Clement's book, Syncope, The Philosophy of Rapture, proposes syncope as a temporary absence of self or suspension of movement, a hesitation or dissonance. Clement's examples of syncope include breathlessness, fever, fainting, weak musical beat, minor chord, the spin of dervishes, sneezing, coughing, hiccuping, uncontrolled laughter, screaming, facial spasms and tics, squinting, tremors, heart palpitation, choking, uncontrolled excretion, vomiting, cold sweat, tears, pricking, tingling, tickling, wheezing, auditory hallucinations, orgasm, visions of God speaking, religious ecstasy, falling in love. According to Clement, syncope has traditionally been the enemy of Western philosophy. Syncope is scary because it subverts power and force, muscle and health, vigor and lucidity. So tell me, is it me writing this? Or is it my disease? The iron in my blood is mine from the tunnels under Joburg. My eyes seethe with ancestral conflicts. My head festers with the voices of dead comrades. There are vibrations of our past that can never be buried. My friend and musician Neo Muyanga tells me a poetics and a politics of breath is palpably evident in South African music. He brings his records with him, and we sit and listen to a breathless history, the collective breathing of choirs, the music of wind instruments, the circular breathing of jazz, the voicing of breath and free jazz musician. To pray is to breathe. Where does my breath end and the wind begin? But sometimes the process is interrupted by the disruption of air through intentional, intense breathing. A sudden seizure, the lung squeezed tight grip of a panic attack, the little death of a giant rolling orgasm. All our holes are connected. I'm part cyborg. My brain is wired to the internet. And I have a metal shoulder implant because of an accident. A ball of cobalt chrome and a stem made of titanium, dug from the earth in the Congo. How many lives were lost so I can hug you? So I can lift my arm to wave goodbye from a distance.